were the kind of places that Anthony used to frequent in the bad old days. Crack houses filled with desperation, paranoia, and greed, like this one in Woodstock. We'd met Anthony while investigating the hardcore drug scene in Cape Town.
Hiding in dark places,
lying and manipulating to get drugs. This was the only way Anthony knew to get ahead.
But I need to fill an empty space.
Through therapy, Anthony has now discovered that he used drugs to fill the void left by two events: a friend's death in a car crash when they were both mere teenagers, a death for which Anthony feels at least partially to blame, and the fact that he's an adopted child and always felt himself a bit apart from his siblings.
Your whole life revolves around the drugs, and you just end up not doing anything else. I mean, life's short. There's a lot to do. You know, there's so much I haven't done, so much to learn. But it all ceases when you start taking drugs.
Today, Anthony says he feels sick when he watches himself performing the grim ritual of crack smoking. When friends ask to see the videotape he's kept of that show, he leaves the room. That day in Cape Town, he says, was his rock bottom. He knew that day that he wanted it all to end. He steeled himself and put down the drugs. 2 months later, having seen Anthony on special assignment, the director of Forest Lake Clinic in Plettenberg Bay phoned, offering him rehabilitation treatment.
I think I'd been clean for 2 months without any treatment when that first program was aired. And I said to him, no, well, I've been clean for 2 months and I'm doing fine by myself, but thanks very much for the offer. And I didn't take him up on it. And 2 weeks later, I had a major relapse, and I went completely off my rocker.
Anthony immediately booked himself into Forest Lake. He saw firsthand what was meant by step 1 of the famous 12-step program used in rehab, to finally admit he was powerless over drugs and that his life had become unmanageable. For the first time, he was really ready to start the work of recovery.
Well, when I started learning this 12-step program, I saw that there were a whole lot of things needed to be done to keep oneself from relapsing, you know, things that I knew nothing about. Things like honesty, open-mindedness, willingness, patience, courage.
The 12 steps were devised by the founders of Alcoholics Anonymous in 1935 and adapted for narcotics rehab. Many recovering addicts attribute their ongoing sobriety to the spiritual guidance given in the 12 steps.
One of the things they did was we had to draw a picture of our biggest fear. And my picture was myself standing at the graveside of my father and my mother. You know, that was my biggest fear, was losing my parents. And when I came out of rehab, this became a reality. You know, my biggest fear became a reality. My father passed away. Fresh out of rehab, I had to apply what I had learned to this situation. And thank God he didn't go that quickly. I mean, he was around with us for almost 2 years after I came out of rehab. So I managed to spend some quality time with him. For him to pass away in peace, he needed to see me clean up my act. And I think if I was still using, I don't think he would have gone as peacefully as he did. We were all sitting with him around his bedside when he did pass away. And I can tell you that he went peacefully, you know? And that means a lot to me.
Anthony credits the 12-step program not only with giving him strength in times of trouble, but for bringing rewards he never expected, simply because the program requires absolute honesty and taking absolute responsibility for one's behavior.
When I was in active addiction, my sister never spoke to me for years. In those days, I used to think to myself, you know, I used to blame that on her, you know, she doesn't understand, and, you know, she doesn't want to understand, and, you know, I used to try and blame it on her. But, you know, today I can look back and I can see that I was the one that had the huge part in this, you know what I mean? When I came out of treatment and I came back to Johannesburg shortly afterwards, My sister has 2 beautiful little kids. The little boy is 4 years old. And she trusted me to take her little boy, just the 2 of us, in the motor car to the zoo, and I spent the day with him at the zoo. And we had the most amazing day. And for my sister to trust me with her little boy like that, you know, the most precious thing she has in the world, to trust her drug addict brother. I mean, I can't even put it into words what that meant to me.
Years of injecting toxins and smoking chemicals at high temperature have withered Anthony's veins and muscles. It's taken him 2 painful years to rebuild a level of fitness most people can reach in 6 weeks. But recently he finished a 21-kilometer race, and he says rebuilding his body has been every step as challenging and rewarding as constructing a new spiritual awareness.
They say 1 step at a time. That's what running's all about. It's 1 step at a time. The difference is running a race, there's an end, there's a finish line, you know. With recovery, there is no end. And the minute that I stop practicing 12 steps in my daily life, relapse is around the corner.